What happened to more than 100 settlers who vanished without a trace? In this video, we uncover the chilling mystery of the Lost Colony of Roanoke, where an entire English settlement disappeared and left behind only one strange clue: the Croatoan. Was it a peaceful move, a deadly conflict, or something history still cannot explain? Join us as we explore one of the greatest unsolved mysteries ever recorded: the Lost Colony of Roanoke. Imagine arriving on a small island after a long and dangerous journey across the ocean. You expect to find a busy settlement filled with people, homes, and signs of life. Instead, you find silence, no voices, no smoke rising from cooking fires, no children running through the streets, just empty buildings slowly being taken back by nature. Then, carved into a wooden post, you find a single word: Croatoan. What happened to the people who lived there? Did they leave on their own? Were they attacked? Did they become part of another community? Or did something far stranger happen? For more than 400 years, the Lost Colony of Roanoke has remained one of the world's greatest mysteries. It is a story filled with hope, struggle, and questions that still do not have clear answers. Even today, historians, archaeologists, and mystery lovers continue searching for the truth. The story begins in the late 1500s, when England wanted to establish a permanent settlement in North America. At the time, powerful nations were competing to claim new lands. England hoped that building colonies would increase its wealth and influence. In 1587, a group of more than 100 settlers arrived in Roanoke Island. The colony included men, women, and children. Unlike earlier attempts, this group was meant to create a lasting community. They were not just explorers. They were families trying to build new lives. Leading the colony was John White. He faced a difficult task from the very beginning. The settlers arrived in a place that was unfamiliar and challenging. Food was limited, supplies were scarce, and relationships with local Native American groups were often uncertain. Life on Roanoke Island was far from easy. The settlers had to build homes, find food, and survive in an environment they barely understood. Every day brought new challenges. Weather conditions could change quickly. Hunting and farming were difficult. Supplies from England were desperately needed. Not long after arriving, the colonists realized they could not survive without more support. They asked John White to return to England and bring back food, tools, and additional supplies. White agreed and prepared for the journey. Before he left, something remarkable happened. His daughter gave birth to a baby girl named Virginia Dare. She became famous for being the first English child born in the New World. The birth of Virginia Dare gave the colony hope. It symbolized a future in this distant land. Families dreamed of creating successful lives for their children. Despite the hardships, many believed they could succeed. When White sailed back to England, he expected to return fairly quickly, but events beyond his control changed everything. England soon became involved in major military conflicts, including the threat of the Spanish Armada. Ships that could have been used to resupply the colony were needed for national defense. White found himself trapped in England for much longer than expected. Days turned into months. Months turned into years. Meanwhile, the settlers on Roanoke Island were left to survive on their own. Finally, in 1590, White secured passage back to Roanoke. You must have imagined the emotional reunion waiting for him. He had left behind his family, including his daughter and granddaughter. After 3 years apart, he was eager to see them again. But what he found was something completely unexpected. As White and his crew approached the settlement, they noticed something strange. There were no signs of people, no welcoming party, no activity, no sounds. The colony appeared abandoned. White carefully searched the area. Buildings were empty. Homes had been dismantled, yet there were no signs of a violent attack, no bodies, no obvious evidence of a battle. The settlers had vanished. Then came the discovery that would make Roanoke famous forever. Carved into a wooden post was the word Croatoan. Nearby, the letters Sea Crow had also been carved into a tree. Before leaving years earlier, White had arranged a simple plan with the settlers. If they decided to relocate, they would leave a message showing where they had gone. If they were forced to leave because of danger, they would carve a cross as a warning. No cross was found. This detail became one of the most important clues in the mystery. The word Croatoan referred to a nearby island and to a Native American group that lived there. At first glance, the message seemed straightforward. Perhaps the settlers have simply moved. But if that was the case, why was there no further evidence? Why were they never found? White wanted to investigate immediately. He believed his family and the other colonists might be living on Croatoan Island. However, bad weather and difficult conditions prevented a proper search. Eventually, he was forced to leave without finding answers. It was a heartbreaking moment. He never saw his daughter or granddaughter again. From that point forward, theories began to grow. One of the most popular explanations is that the settlers joined the Croatoan people. This theory suggests the colonists struggled to survive alone and decided that living alongside local communities offered their best chance of survival. Supporters of this idea point out that cooperation between groups was not impossible. Some Native American communities possessed valuable knowledge about farming, fishing, and surviving in the region. Joining them may have been a practical decision. Over the years, reports emerged claiming that certain tribes had people with European features or traditions. Some historians believe these stories could hint at a connection between the missing settlers and local populations. Another theory suggests the colonists attempted to move inland. Perhaps they left Roanoke Island in search of better farmland or safer living conditions. If they established a new settlement elsewhere, it may have disappeared over time, leaving little evidence behind. Archaeologists have spent years searching locations that might have been connected to the colonists. Pieces of pottery, tools, and other artifacts have occasionally sparked excitement. Each discovery raises hopes that the mystery is finally being solved. Yet no single piece of evidence has provided a complete answer. Some people believe the settlers faced conflict. Relations between colonists and Native American groups were sometimes tense. It is possible that violence occurred after White departed. However, many experts remain cautious about this theory because the abandoned settlement lacked clear signs of destruction. If a large attack had occurred at Roanoke itself, investigators would expect stronger evidence. Then, there are the more dramatic theories. Over the centuries, stories of secret massacres, hidden conspiracies, and supernatural events have become attached to Roanoke. The systems were second most precious and baseless fashion. Some legends suggest mysterious forces were involved. A single lack of pressure
Others imagine secret plots that erase the colony from history. These stories are fascinating, but most historians focus on more realistic explanations based on available evidence. What makes the Roanoke mystery so powerful is not just the disappearance itself, it is the lack of certainty. Many historical mysteries eventually receive answers. New documents are found. Archaeological discoveries fill in missing pieces.
Roanoke has resisted those efforts for generations. Every clue seems to create new questions. The carved word points in one direction, but not strongly enough to close the case. The absence of violence suggests one possibility, but not with complete confidence. Artifacts hint at movement and survival, but they do not tell the entire story. The mystery remains balanced between several believable explanations. In many ways, that uncertainty is what keeps Roanoke alive in public imagination. People naturally want answers. When a mystery remains unsolved for centuries, it becomes even more fascinating. My personal opinion is that the settlers most likely did not vanish suddenly or mysteriously. The evidence seems to suggest that they gradually left Roanoke and integrated with nearby Native American communities, or moved to another location in search of survival. The carved word, "See Croatoan," feels less like a warning and more like a message. While we may never know every detail, the idea that these people adapted and continued living rather than simply disappearing forever seems the most reasonable explanation. Today, the Roanoke story is still remembered at the historic area connected to the original settlement. On the positive side, the site is carefully preserved, studied by researchers, and visited by thousands of people interested in history. Educational programs, archaeological work, and historical displays help keep the story alive for new generations. On the negative side, the mystery remains incomplete. Many questions still have no clear answers, and centuries of weather, erosion, and lost records have made the search for evidence much harder. Even now, researchers continue looking for clues that could finally explain what happened. The present situation is that the Lost Colony of Roanoke remains officially unsolved. Archaeologists still investigate possible locations connected to the settlers. Historians continue debating the evidence, and visitors still arrive, hoping to understand one of history's greatest disappearances. More than 400 years later, the silence left behind by the missing colonists continues to echo through history.